Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And this afternoon, we are going to talk about Mia Mottley, who is desirous of running for a third term in her country, Barbados. Now, Mia Mottley is the current Prime Minister of Barbados. She is a global politician because of her advocacy for climate change, for climate, whatever. I don't think she called it climate change. She called it climate something. I can't remember what she calls it. But whatever it is, right? She is a climate advocate. She's passionate about that. Whatever that climate agenda is, we know that the government of the world, if they were that interested about climate, that they would end the wars, right? The never-ending wars, the wars which are unnecessary, that they would end them forthwith. We're not hearing Mia Mottley speaking against the military-industrial complex in the United States. She does not attack that stridently as she ought to do. Now, because the wars are also creating and disrupting, I should say, climatic conditions and, affecting our climate, and people have to be, because the environment is damaged, they have to be, leaving their homes and their territories. And that is something that's affecting the poverty rate and many other factors that we can talk about when we think about the never-ending wars that the US and its allies, particularly its European allies, are waging around the world. Now, why is Mia Mottley going up for a third term? I think she says that she had before, in a previous dialogue, political, assertion, she had suggested that she was not going to go up again. She was not going to run a third term as Prime Minister of Barbados or for that position. It seems like she has changed her mind. And I think I read somewhere she said that because at the time she had lost a brother and she was mourning. So when you're in mourning, you are emotional and you can say whatever you want to say. But now that she has reflected, she thinks that she should run for a third term and continue the splendid job, or maybe not so much the splendid job that she is actually doing in Barbados. Now, I leave the Barbadians to let me know in the comment section whether or not Mia Mottley is doing a terrific job in Barbados. Is she? Now, the papers, that is the Barbados Today, had an article, support for Mia Mottley running for third term. And this was published in the Barbados Today, Sunday, June 1, 2025. So it is a very recent article. Prime Minister Mia Mottley's confirmation that she intends to seek a third term has been greeted positively by Barbados across the island, with some on Tuesday expressing their support amid sharp criticism of the political opposition. Speaking over the weekend, Mottley declared her intention to lead the Barbados Labour Party, that's the BLP, into the next general election, reaffirming her commitment to national service and continuity in leadership of her party. The announcement came as no surprise to some, but it stirred renewed conversation about the island's political direction and the readiness of opposition parties, particularly the Democratic Labour Party. So the DLP, the Democratic Labour Party, is the opposition, the party in opposition in Barbados. Now, one of the things you have to understand, and I think that we have already declared that on this channel, but sometimes we suffer from amnesia, so it's very important that I remind you of that very important point, that Mia Mottley, of course, she's in her second term as we speak. That's why she's up for her third term in office, that when she came into office in 2018, when she became Prime Minister of Barbados, that she had swept all 30 seats in 2018. And she swept all 30 seats in 2021 when she called the general elections in Barbados during the COVID pandemic. She swept all 30 seats. And when it was very embarrassing to her that, for two consecutive elections, she could have swept, all 30 seats in the Barbadian parliament, she decided that she would give one of the seats to the opposition party, the DLP. That's the Democratic Labour Party. Now, that is interesting. Is that a democracy? Is that a formidable democracy? Do they have a formidable democracy in Barbados? Are Barbadians proud of that sort of democracy in their fair isle? And the Barbadians are quite patriotic people, and I'm sure that they would not think of themselves as a, soft dictatorship. But if you have a reigning government that has really won all 30 seats, and probably I could say they have because it's they that won all 30 seats in your parliament, it suggests that something is wrong with that form of democracy, that it is not robust enough to meet the challenges that confront Barbados. And I understand based on my reading, I have never traveled to Barbados. I don't know really much about their politics. I understand based on Caribbean politics that we practice the same Westminster form of politics, and it is similar in many ways. But the culture of Barbados differs from the culture of Jamaica, from the culture of Trinidad. So I would not say that I am an expert on Barbadian politics and what is happening there. However, I have looked at different commentaries coming out of Barbados from Barbadians who have critiqued Mia Mottley's policies, Mia Mottley's government, and the fact that she runs like a dictator. She is an authoritarian. That is how she runs her government, and she does not like criticisms and opposition, right? She doesn't like it, and that is why you perhaps saw where she was able to have won all 30 seats in the Barbadian parliament. Vicky Lane spoke to Barbados today while running errands in the city and said Mottley's decision was anticipated and reflected the lack of a strong alternative within her own party ranks or across the aisle. Yeah, so when you have a person winning all of those seats twice, you're not, and she's opposed to any form of opposition, any form of criticism, then definitely you're going to have a deficit of people who are able to be competent to challenge her, because she has not made them, she hasn't allowed them to do the same. You have to allow criticism. You have to allow people to oppose, and for the people to see that that person is competent and would be a credible match for Mia Mottley in the next election. But if she suppresses all types of opposition, therefore, people are not going to be able to see anybody but Mia Mottley as being competent to govern Barbados. She said, I think it was expected. I don't think that any of her senior ministers or deputy prime minister have that pull that they can step into election running for prime minister and still get the same level of support that she has gotten. As to what it means for the DLP, they never had a chance, in my opinion, regardless of who ran for prime minister under the BLP. So she's suggesting here that the DLP is a weak opposition. Another citizen, Irita Clark, voiced passionate approval of Mottley's continued leadership, citing her ability to handle crises and steer the country through difficult times. I feel very impressed with her running for another term, because right now I don't think nobody else at this point could handle what she's handling and what she went through after that terrible time when the Dems had it in hand. She said, it is what it is for the country right now. The Dems aren't ready yet. And by the Dems, she means the Democratic Labour Party yet. So just forget about the Dems. And I'm very passionate about it. Very. Now, one woman who gave her name only as Stacy echoed those sentiments, applauding Mottley's crisis management through the pandemic, natural disasters, and economic challenges. However, she also expressed hope for leadership succession planning. And she says here, I can't say that I disagree with it, because currently I do not see anybody else being able to do it. If you think back to everything that Barbados has gone through, COVID and the freak storms and the ash fall and everything, I honestly don't think that the Democratic Labour Party would have been able to get us through the way she did. So she's been credited for what she did during the pandemic and the economic programs that she has implemented in Barbados. So people are crediting her, and I'm sure these are her supporters. And it's a he says, she says, as happens in the Jamaica Gleaner and also Jamaica Observer. There is a deficit of good reporting in the Caribbean. That guy did not go out. The writer of this article, what's his name? The Barbadian Shamar Blunt did not investigate. He has no investigation. It's just as he says, she says. And there is no investigation into terms of analyzing Mia Mottley's policy stances. Nothing. Nothing is said about her history and the fact that she won all 30 seats twice in the elections that she participated in, right? So we're wondering what is happening in Barbados. And why is Mia Mottley seeking a third term in office? Now, Mia Mottley, many people were suggesting, and these were just speculations. She had not, in fairness to her, confirmed whether or not she is up for the position of General Secretary of the United Nations. But, lots of people were speculating, including CNNs and the Guardian newspapers and all of these top newspapers of the world and, media houses were speculating, have been speculating that she is a front runner to replace Guterres as General Secretary of the United, or Secretary General, what they call it, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, she did not, when she was posed the question, when she was asked the question, are you up? I think she was asked by CNN. She says that, only the future will tell, something of the sort. That's what she said. She did not deny. And I think when they speak like that, she knows that she was up and she wanted to be that. And perhaps that's why she told Barbadians that she was not going to run for a third term, because she thought that she would have been a serious contender for that position as Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, many people have written very glowing commentaries on Mia Mottley's capacity and her qualification to become the next General Secretary of the United Nations. And, first, she is a strong and avid climate defender and a supporter. This is coming from a paper, America Should Back Mia Mottley as the next UN General Secretary, or the next UN Secretary General. It's Secretary General. It's not General Secretary, but Secretary General of the United Nations. And this was written by Michael Rubin of the National Security Journal. And the National Security Journal has to be a paper that is affiliated with the US military-industrial complex. It has to be, right? Once they have this security thing, and you know why they are backing her. The United Nations, and this was written on October 15th, 2024, the United Nations is a deeply dysfunctional organization, he's suggesting here. Successive secretaries general have viewed their position to travel the world in luxury and opine on the issues of the day. They neglect their primary function to run the United Nations on wheedly bureaucracy. Adding to the chaos, Protocol Trump's competence, the UN Security Council traditionally rotates the position among its various geographic groupings so that nationality trumps competence. This is how the UN got Europeans like Kurt Waldheim, a former Nazi war criminal turned Austrian foreign minister, as its head between 1972 and 1981. It's deliberate. Or how António Guterres, a relatively unaccomplished Portuguese foreign minister and socialist internationalist president, became its current leader. A desire for an African Secretary General led to the selection of Kofi Annan, a Ghanaian foreign minister and the UN bureaucrat most responsible for Rwanda's anti-Tutsi genocide. His legacy became presiding over the UN's worst corruption scandal to date. So they always choose people who are corrupt, who are authoritarian, who have Nazi leanings or socialist, undertaking's socialist leanings also, right? So as Guterres nears the end of his final term, the unofficial campaign to succeed him has already begun. The next Secretary General will likely come from the Americas. In addition, many states and UN officials themselves say that they will only select a woman. To transform the UN into an organization that prioritizes competence over national quotas or identity politics may be a bridge too far in the short term, but competence can nevertheless be a priority. Now, listen to what he's going to say about Mia Mottley. Here, both the United States and those who seek a UN that fulfills its mission should rally around Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley. The problem with identity politics-based selection, like affirmative action, is it raises questions about the competence of the selectee. Did the selectee win a position to fulfill a quote, or because he or she was the best for the job? That's a very good question. Diplomats can ask no such question about Mottley. As Barbados' leader, she has led the country through its transformation from constitutional monarchy to republic, a Commonwealth member wholly separate from Britain. She's popular. In her last election, she won over 70% of the vote. Transparency International ranks Barbados as less corrupt than Portugal, South Korea, Ghana, or Egypt, home of the last 4 secretaries general. Every candidate speaks about transparency only to reinforce your opacity when they take office. Mottley could be different. Whereas her predecessors hid the true indebtedness of Barbados, Mottley revealed previously undisclosed obligations. Her fault on Eurobond payments may be a black mark, but better to confront the issues head-on rather than engage the creative accounting that has led the UN to such waste and fraud in the United Nations. So Mottley's obsession with climate change could be a distraction if she believes her job is to preach rather than manage. Guterres has diminished himself and his brand with his anti-Semitic moral equivalency and reproach of Israel. Maybe too, that is what is going to cause Mia Mottley problem. I think she has spoken about against what is happening in Gaza, so that could also affect her candidacy for the leadership as a Secretary General of the United Nations. Give her credit. So maybe it's not that obviously she's qualified, she's a lawyer, and she has had multiple years in politics in Barbados. And we see that she has a commanding presence when she delivers her speech. Maybe what she says is not of substance, but she does have a commanding presence when she articulates her sentiments publicly. Wow, beg your pardon, let me get this. Right, so, right. So, sorry about that. Right, so when she articulates her policies, she is a competent woman. Still, my thing is still draining. So we see where Mia Mottley is a qualified person. She's competent to take on that role and to act in that position. Perhaps the Security Council, in their formal appointment, if they want the UN to survive, and with it, the permanent 5 Security Council members' special privileges, should make clear that another figure who believes grandstanding trumps competent management could mean the end of their contributions to the UN, if not the UN's very existence. Mottley, however, may be wise enough to recognize how precarious the UN today is and perform another Barbadian miracle. I don't think she can do that. Barbados is a small country in comparison to a United Nations with over how many, over 170 countries. I don't think that she would be able to, perform that Barbados miracle as the author here is suggesting. That would be too much. Barbados is just a tiny island in the Caribbean Sea. So even if she had performed a miracle in Barbados, she would not be able to make that translatable. She would not be able to translate that, to transfer that to her management of the United Nations, which comprises a lot of nations around the world. So this is what Mia Mottley is. She up for the Secretary General? or have they renounced her position? Is she still up, or is she not up? Is she going to run for the Secretary General, or is she not going to be able to do that anymore? That is a question that we would have to ask, her, if she is still up for that position. And is it that she's sensing, perhaps Mia Mottley is sensing that she's not going to be up for that position anymore? So she's decided that she's not going to run for the position. Maybe she's getting news from behind the scenes. We don't know. I don't know what's going on with these people. But let's look at this, the contenders, those who are contending for the position. Now we have here 148 billion, and that is, I'm sure they're saying one Secretary General for 8 billion people in the world. I think that's what they mean. So we have Jacinda Ardern, and she's from, or Ardern, and she's from New Zealand and former Prime Minister of New Zealand. And these are Michelle Bachelet, and she's former Prime Minister, or President rather, of Chile, former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. We also have Alicia Bárcena, and she is from Mexico, Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Mexico. And we have Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garces, and she is from Ecuador and former president of the UN General Assembly. We have Kristalina Georgieva, and she is managing director of the International Monetary Fund. And her country's from Bulgaria. Yeah, and wasn't she the one who selected what's his name? Nigel Clark to have been a vice managing director. So they might select her. They might choose her over a person like Mia Mottley. Rafael Grossi, and he's from Argentina. He's from Argentina, and he was the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and he is coming out of Argentina. A lot of them are coming out of Latin America. Rebecca Grispan, and she is from Costa Rica, and she's the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and former Vice President of Costa Rica. So there are lots of them coming out of. So we have Vuk Jeremic, and he's from Serbia, former President of the General Assembly, former Serbian Foreign Minister. We have Amina Mohammed, and she's Nigerian, and she seems to resides in the United Kingdom, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. And then we have our own Mia Mottley from the Caribbean, from the island of Barbados, and she's currently the Prime Minister of Barbados. We also have Akeem Steiner, Brazil, Administrator of the United Nations Development Program. Juan Manuel Santos, he is from Colombia, and he's a former president of Colombia. Listen to what they're saying. He has been ruled out since September 2024. Juan Manuel Santos has been leading the call for a woman SG as part of his role as a member of the elders. We covered him in news article here. So has he been ruled out? What are they suggesting here? Okay. Well, okay, I guess he's not been ruled out. They're telling us why they would consider him to be an appropriate candidate for the Secretary General, for the Secretary General of the United Nations. So we can see here, ladies and gentlemen, that Mia Mottley would perhaps, I don't know if they're ranking them according to their popularity and for the likelihood of those who might win. But we have a number of women here who are contending with the likes of Mia Mottley. Very interesting lineup of the Secretaries General of the United Nations, those who are contending for that position to become the Secretary General of the United Nations. But here we have Mia Mottley. Make sure you like and you share the videos. And I would like to hear from Barbadians, those who are there on the ground. Do you think that Mia Mottley deserves a third term in office? Do you think that she has managed the COVID crisis very well? What about the IMF program that is there? Do you think that she also was wise in her implementation of the IMF program. Has the IMF program been successful in Barbados? Can you see economic reforms? Is the cost of living trending down? What about crime and violence? Is the poverty rate going up, or is that also decreasing? I would like to hear from the Barbadian people. All right, would love to hear from them. But I wonder if Mia Mottley is hearing something from her superiors that perhaps she is not going to be selected as the Secretary General of the United Nations, and that is the reason for which she has decided to run for a third term. Or possibly, and something that I have been thinking about, is the fact that in Trump's America, and America controls the UN, whether we like it or not. America is the one that controls the United Nations. And under Trump's America, I'm not sure if she would not be willing to work under that administration, because I know that Mia Mottley is an anti-Trump administration, or the administration is also anti-Mia Mottley. We are not sure what is happening behind the scenes and the power brokers and how they see things. Remember now that the power brokers are pluralistic. Even though we talk about elites here, but remember now when we talk about the elites, they also have their likes and their dislikes, and they're also pluralistic, just as we are, and they have their political tastes and their political distastes. So we don't know if the Trump administration would want the likes of Mia Mottley to be General Secretary, particularly now that Trump administration, the climate change agenda is not the foremost on his priorities, right? So we do not know if, on that basis, either Mia Mottley has decided not to run for the position, or she has been tapped on the shoulders rather, and they have told her that she's not going to win, particularly under the Trump administration and what their agenda might stand for or against. I don't know. Please let me know what you think. I know that many of you think that Mia Mottley is this gigantic personality in world politics, in geopolitics, and she is, but what difference is she making? Is she a transformative leader? I don't know. I think you should let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe, like the video, so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. Let's now begin to subscribe and like up the videos. Every time you watch a video, you need to like the video. Just click on the like button, the button to your left. If you look there, you have one button on your left and another on your right. Click the button on your left, because that is the button that says that you like the video. And what happens when you like the video is shared with other people on the platform. It's not only for the YouTuber, but it's also suggesting that you are not selfish, that you want the video to be shared because you liked it, and also share it with other people on your social media accounts, like your WhatsApp, your Instagram and X, former Twitter. So do these things and allow the videos to be shared so that we can go viral and, make the channel a worthy channel to watch. Now, I was thinking also of having a morning program, a live morning program, possibly maybe at 8 or 9 or 10. You can let me know what would be your preference if I should have a morning program in which I do a live commentary on what is happening in the Caribbean. Please let me know what you think about that, because that is something that we need to do. We need to expose what is happening in the Caribbean and around the world at large. But a lot of times when the news is given, the Caribbean is often left out. They often talk about Asia, Latin America, Europe, and Africa. And oftentimes the Caribbean islands particularly are not in the reporting. So we need to also highlight that we are very, very important members of the global population. Thank you so much for joining. See you in another one.